the course of the session. So again, welcome to the Joyful Readers launch. This event is 10 months in the making. Research, conversations with teachers, with literacy experts, with nonprofit leaders throughout the city of Philadelphia has led to this moment, to making Joyful Readers a reality. My name is David Weinstein. I'm the founder and president of Joyful Readers. As you can see, I'm rocking my Joyful Readers t-shirt this evening, and I'm honored that you are all joining us here this evening. I've spent the last 15 years working in public education in Philadelphia, and I've had the opportunity to learn just how incredible the kids here are in Philadelphia. I've also had the opportunity to witness some of the challenges that they face day in and day out. And for years now, I've been pondering a really fundamental question, and that is, how can we help Philadelphia students gain the literacy skills they need to become successful and confident readers? Now, that's such a fundamental piece of someone's education, but unfortunately, it's not guaranteed for students. It's not something that we can rely on. And so I'm going to ask everyone on the call just to think back to when you were in elementary school. Maybe your class looked a little bit like this one. I know mine did. And so I'm going to ask you to think back to when your teacher asked the class to read a story out loud. And paragraph by paragraph, everyone was going to read a section of that story out loud, one by one, around the room. And if you think back to that, you can probably remember that there were some kids who struggled really badly. There were some kids who really did not look forward to that moment when they were going to have to read a paragraph out loud. They were hoping that they got that paragraph that was one sentence long, right? And then maybe that was you. Maybe it was a good friend of yours. Maybe it was one of your classmates. But at the end of the day, it was someone in your classroom, and probably a few different people. And for those kids, unless they got some sort of special help or attention, there's a really good chance that they didn't have the opportunity to catch up on their reading skills. The grim truth is that when kids don't read well by the time that they're in 3rd or 4th grade, very often they don't catch up, and school gets harder and harder for them. There's a saying in education that students up to grade 3 are learning how to read, and that starting in grade 4, they're reading in order to learn. So when they can't do that when they get to grade 4, they start to face major challenges. The research here is pretty clear. When you look across the country, students who don't read proficiently by 3rd grade, they're 4 times more likely to leave high school without a diploma than a proficient reader. That's just looking at 3rd graders. But that's also a national statistic, and it doesn't really fully apply to what happens in the city of Philadelphia. For Black and Latinx students that make up most of the kids in this city, students who are living in poverty, if they have poor reading skills by 3rd grade, they're 8 times more likely to leave high school without a diploma. So this is huge. If you go to a school where this is the case for some of the students in the grade, obviously you have folks who are in that school helping those students and making sure that isn't the case, making sure they're getting on track and reading effectively at an early age. In Philadelphia, though, that's particularly challenging because it's not just a few kids in the classroom. It's 2/3 of all Philadelphia K-3 students who are reading below grade level. Just to get a sense of the scale of this, that's 24,000 kids in School District of Philadelphia schools, just in grades K-3, just who are reading below grade level. That's actually 4 times the size of the small town I grew up in, just our non-proficient K-3 readers in Philly. And if you dig a little bit deeper into that, you actually find that there are some challenges breaking that down by racial groups. Our Latinx and our Black students in Philadelphia, it's more like 75% of those K-3 students who are not reading on grade level. And so those disparities point to a major equity challenge that we're facing here in Philadelphia and across the country. And this is where Joyful Readers comes in. Imagine you're a teacher, and let's say you have 24 kids in your class, and 18 of them read below grade level. You've got some extra support in your classroom. You've got a specialist that might come in and help out with students, but it's just not enough to give students the support that they need and deserve. And so what Joyful Readers is looking to do is embed full-time tutors directly into schools to work with students day in and day out. Our tutors would work with students in really small groups, just 2-on-1, 20 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. We're aiming to work with kids 2-on-1 because it's really important that for kids who are struggling to read that they get personalized and individualized support to get back on track. We want to work with kids every single day because we know that relationships are key to making sure that students trust the adults that they're working with, that they build camaraderie with the other student in their group, and that they are invested in the learning that they are doing while being pulled out of class. And we want to focus exclusively on reading tutoring so that our tutors can be as effective as possible and so that they can reach a big number of students. Because at the end of the day, when you've got 24,000 young students in one city not reading on grade level, it's really hard to think about small solutions. You've got to aim big. And so what we're looking to do is next fall, we're hoping to start with a cohort of 50 tutors that would work in small teams, 2, 3, or 4 people in 20 Philadelphia schools, supporting 2,000 students with daily reading tutoring. That is our goal for what we're hoping to achieve next fall. Now, we are not the first organization to try to support literacy in Philadelphia. There are a number of good community members, organizations, teachers, educators of all stripes who are supporting students in Philadelphia. I think as an organization, where Joyful Readers stands out is our commitment to making sure that we are the best possible tutors that we can be for the students of Philadelphia. So our tutors would make a 9-month full-time commitment, serving for a full school year to make sure that they are supporting kids in Philadelphia. We would actually train them for 1 month full-time, and they would take a course from the AIM Institute for Learning and Research, which is an organization that's not only deeply respected here in the Philadelphia area, but also across the country as an organization that is leading the way in teaching educators how to support students through the science of reading instruction. Our tutors would actually earn graduate credits from Arcadia University as a part of our program because our training is that serious and is that geared towards making sure that we are an effective program that is helping kids. That is where our laser focus lies. Now, this is where I'm going to nerd out for just a moment. I hope you can bear with me here. Everyone, I think, can intuit that a tutor is a good thing for a kid. Many of us have been tutored. We've been tutors before. We know that tutoring is good somewhat intrinsically. But I want to talk a little bit behind the research behind tutoring. Last year, there was a landmark study that was released by the National Bureau of Economic Research. And it wasn't a study of just one tutoring program or a study of just one school. They were looking at all of the tutoring research across the United States from the past 20 years. And they found about 100 high quality studies that they could really dig into, the most effective studies that they could find to understand to what extent is tutoring really helpful and what are the characteristics of tutoring that can make it as effective as possible. And their big picture conclusion was that a student who takes part in a tutoring program, they can improve by 16 percentile points in a year. Now, I think most of you are saying, what is 16 percentile points? What does that even mean that they're improving their percentile rank that way? So I want to illustrate that for you and kind of show you what I mean by that. Let's say that you're a student who is reading in the 34th percentile. What that means is, on average, you're reading about better than a third of the kids in your grade across the country. You're not doing terribly, but you're not doing too great either. 16 points means that by the end of just 1 year, you're reading at the 50th percentile, better than half of the students in your grade across the country. That type of result at a meta-analysis level, when you're looking at so many programs, is almost unprecedented in education research. This is not the type of result that you could expect to see. Certainly for an individual student or for a program that's working really well in one school, maybe you could expect to see this, but these are the average results of American tutoring programs. They're incredibly successful at getting kids back on track, but the results vary program to program. Some don't have these results and some have results that are even better. And that's where digging into the research, Joyful Readers doesn't want to be an average program. We're looking to utilize their research to be the best possible program for Philadelphia. So here are some of those extra conclusions that we're leaning into. The first from the study is that you don't need to be a teacher to be a really good tutor. What you do need is a great training program, and you need to be supported throughout the course of the year. And that's what we're planning to do for our tutors. The next thing they found is that if you're getting tutored once a week, that's good. The results there are positive, but they're not great. And if you really want to move the needle, you need to be tutoring students at least 3 days a week and preferably 4 or 5. The next thing that they dug into, I think, is really interesting and said that the most effective tutoring actually happens during the school day. That's not how I initially conceived of tutoring growing up. I thought of it as something you might do after school or on the weekends. But when they looked at programs that are operating in schools during the day, that's where the best results were happening. And then finally, like we talked about, we're working with K-3 students, not only because students need to build their reading skills really early to be successful in school, but also because reading tutoring is just the most effective for those students. So we're really focused in on that age group. So I want to talk just a little bit about where we are today. What's next for Joyful Readers? What has already happened? And so we are less than 1 year, hopefully, until tutoring begins here in Philadelphia. I know we have a few attorneys who are on the call this evening, so I think these first few bullets here are for you. Joyful Readers is incorporated here in Pennsylvania. We have our charitable solicitation license, so we're ready to go in terms of raising funds. And last spring, we submitted our 501c3 application to become a tax-exempt organization to the federal government. We're hoping to hear back this fall. So those things are done, some of our nuts and bolts. I think perhaps more importantly for many of you, we've had some really great conversations with our school district, with a ton of different stakeholders throughout the city of Philadelphia, and we've submitted an RFP to the district to get our first contract in place. And so what we're hoping to do is be able to move forward with that over the course of the next few months. So that's what this fall is going to mean. Talking with the schools, both in our district and our charter schools, about where Joyful Readers can serve next school year, where we can support students in Philadelphia. Next month, we're also going to be submitting an AmeriCorps grant application, because our hope is that our tutors can be AmeriCorps members so that they can earn an education award at the end of their commitment of service with our organization. This winter, we're going to start recruiting tutors to serve next year. We want to get a leg up and get really far in advance, starting to talk to tutors about joining us next fall. And in the spring and the summer, we're going to start bringing on some of our full-time staff who are going to support and lead our tutors throughout the course of the year. And then finally, I think just the absolute most exciting thing is next September, we're looking to launch our tutoring cohort with their full-time training. And then just a little bit less than a year from today, our tutors begin and start supporting Philadelphia students. So this has been a ton of work so far. There's a ton of work that lies ahead for Joyful Readers, but I'm incredibly lucky that I'm not doing any of that work alone. And so I have a founding board that has been working with me day in, day out, volunteering their time to make sure that Joyful Readers can get off the ground. And what I want to do is just give them a moment to each share a little bit about who they are and why they're supporting Joyful Readers. And so our first board member to share is going to be Virgil Shepard.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Virgil Shepard. I proudly serve as the president and CEO of Hope Partnership for Education, which is an independent middle school and adult education center in North Philadelphia. I'm excited to serve alongside Dave and the rest of the founding board because I believe that literacy is a key to lifelong learning. I think that when you're able to read and understand what you're reading, it just unlocks so many doors. So I'm excited to support the organization moving forward and excited and looking forward to your support as well. And I want to pass it to Chachi.
Yeah, my name is Chachi. Thanks, Virgil. I'm the Vice President of Grant Compliance and Strategy at Cityyear. I've been here for about 4 years. So I'm thrilled to be part of the Joyful Readers board. For me, it's an opportunity to be able to give back to a community that I've recently moved here for about 2 years. So it helps me engage with the community a little bit more. But I'm also really excited that national service is part of this implementation at the local level. So I'm really excited to be part of it. I'll send it over to Amanda.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here tonight. I'm Amanda Gamble, she, her pronouns. I'm the Chief Service Officer over the Mayor's Office of Civic Engagement and Volunteer Service here in Philadelphia. And I'm really excited to be a founding board member for Joyful Readers because I believe deeply in the power of national service and AmeriCorps. And I'm so excited that our members will get the opportunity to serve like so many other folks should. So pass it over to Tim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tim Galaz. I work at PwC. I'm a senior associate with the tax exempt organizations group, where we do tax compliance and consulting for larger national nonprofit organizations, mostly hospitals and universities. And I joined the Joyful Readers board because while I'm very grateful to work with mission-driven clients, I've missed doing more direct community service. I also am passionate about education, and I believe that reading is fundamental, not only in education, but in life. And based on Dave's presentation, as you've seen in his own pitch to me, I do believe there is a crisis here in Philadelphia, and I think that this organization can change that. So I'm really excited to be a part of it. And thank you all for joining. And I'll pass it now to Dorothy.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name's Dorothy Wong. I'm the Director of Special Projects at PhilAbundance. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to serve on the founding board of Joyful Readers. One, I'm really excited to support a local social entrepreneur like Dave. I'm excited to help be part of building something that I know he's so incredibly passionate about, but also first and foremost want to support every and all things to support the young people in Philadelphia, and believe really part of the mission is it's not just about building literacies, but hopefully the joy of reading and all that being a joyful reader can bring for all the next steps in a young person's life. And I guess I'm passing it back to Dave.
Thank you, Dorothy, for those kind words, and thank you to everyone on the board for your service and volunteerism to getting Joyful Readers up off the ground. That we couldn't be where we are so far today without you. You saw me saying thank you to everyone in the chat, and that's just because of how valuable each of these people have been to the mission so far, and I'm really excited to get a chance to continue working with them. So folks, tonight is the launch of our founding campaign. We are looking to get the word out about Joyful Readers. We are looking to go public, and we are looking to raise $30,000 to help get us started, to cover our initial operational costs, and to start recruiting our core for next year, because we can't provide tutoring to the students of Philadelphia if we don't have our tutors in place, ready to go for next fall. And so thanks to some generous donors who have supported us before the campaign officially launched, friends, family, literacy leaders here in Philadelphia, I'm proud to say that we've already raised over 40% of our goal towards $30,000. We've raised over $12,000 so far, which I think is really incredible because our campaign is just starting tonight. That's not going to get us all the way to where we need though. And so I'm going to ask everyone to consider making a contribution to Joyful Readers tonight to help us get closer to our $30,000 goal. As you can see here on the screen, and in a moment as well in the chat, joyfulreaders.org/donate is where you can find our secure donation form to help out this organization get things moving and start recruiting our tutors for next year. A lot of folks have asked me how much they should give. Maybe, I don't know if people are looking for XYZ dollars or a gold level or a silver level or something along those lines. But what I've said to everyone is I'm going to ask you to make a significant contribution. And significant is something that you need to define for yourself and your own ability to give. Maybe for some people on the call tonight, significant is $2,500. Maybe for other folks, it's $25. For many of us, I bet it's probably somewhere in between. But whatever your significant contribution is, that's my personal ask to you to support Joyful Readers in helping us get off the ground and start recruiting our AmeriCorps members. So again, I'm going to ask folks to head to joyfulreaders.org/donate. Oh, I love it, Josh. I'm going to ask people to head to that website. That's where our secure donation form can be found. And let's move this thermometer up. That thermometer is going to update every 60 seconds on our website. And it's going to keep moving up, and we're going to get past 13,000 and then past 14 and then past 15 and keep going from there. Now, if you're quick, if you had your wallet handy, if you're already on the site, one of the things that you're going to find is that when you're making your donation, we're going to ask you a question. And it's, would you like to join us for our closing event at Triple Bottom Brewing on Wednesday, November 17th? We are really excited to partner with Triple Bottom Brewing. They are a Philadelphia brewery with a social mission. So if you're local to Philadelphia, we really hope that you can join us there to celebrate. And we hope that on November 17th, what we're saying is we've done it. We've broken our $30,000 fundraising goal. Let's have a great time. The tickets for this event are free. We just ask again that you make a significant contribution to help us fundraise, to help us get to where we need to go as an organization. Now, if you've already done that, if you have flown through that form, if you are someone who is just like, yeah, I've got my Apple Wallet already saved, I'm good, my contribution has been made. What I'm going to ask you to do is find us on social media. We're up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you haven't already followed us, this is where you're going to be able to get the next updates from Joyful Readers going forward. I know many of you have seen some posts on my personal pages. Those are going to be less and less over time, and we're going to transition everything over to our Joyful Reader social media account. So if you've already made your donation, please find us on social media. I'm getting some email notifications with some donations coming in. I'm loving it. I got my phone on silent, but I can see that it's blowing up with some great notifications coming in. I love it. Thank you so much. As folks are making their donation, what I want to do is open this up for Q&A that folks have, for comments that folks have. And at this point in time, if you have a question, you're welcome to either drop it in the chat or to come off of mute. Jen, thank you so much. I'm excited as well to see you on the 17th. Thank you for your support. Thank you, Jessica. What questions do we have about Joyful Readers?
Hey, Dave, this is Josh. I'm curious, when did you first come up with the idea, and how long has this sort of been percolating before you kind of pulled the trigger and committed?
Josh, I really appreciate that. I think there's kind of two answers there. One is probably about 2 years ago, I first started thinking about this as something I could improve upon the work of what I was doing in my role at City Year. I know many of you know that I've spent nearly 15 years at City Year here in Philadelphia, and that is kind of the beginning of where this came from. It wasn't with the goal to start a new organization. It was always just with that question in mind of how can we best prepare kids? How can we best support them? And that's really where it started. I think it was really during the course of the pandemic, last summer, last fall, where I started to realize that there was never going to be a better time than now. I didn't really mention it too much in my slide. I think it's a little bit over talked about, but the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic for students are real. Virtual learning, especially for our youngest students, is really rarely the right fit for them. They don't have the executive function that makes virtual learning the best for them. And our kids are not reading as well as they were a year or two ago. And I think that was kind of what pushed me over the edge to say that the time was now to take the risk and to start something new.
Awesome. Excited to support.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. I'm loving the love in the chat, as well as all of these donations that I'm seeing come through. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions about Joyful Readers tonight?
Yeah, Dave, I've got a question. Good afternoon, everybody. Dave, I'm wondering if you can share with us what you think the biggest opportunities are ahead of Joyful Readers, and also what you think the biggest challenges or barriers will be to the organization's success.
Oh, Julian, always hitting with the hard questions. I appreciate that. You know, I think the biggest opportunity is to establish ourselves in Philadelphia as people who are working together to support educators, to support students. And that may sound a little bit broad and a little bit vague, but I think that the most important thing that we can really think about in the beginning stages is building relationships with students, with their families, and with the schools where we work. So we begin to become trusted as allies who are there to support kids in whatever they need and to focus on building their reading skills. I think that that's our biggest opportunity. I think, you know, our biggest challenges, I would I wouldn't be able to not mention the fact that we're going to need funding. And we've had some really excellent, productive conversations with foundations, with schools, with districts. But that is, any nonprofit is always going to think about that as a challenge. I think beyond that, though, I think it is, how do we make sure that we bring on people who are committed to the work, that want to do the work, and then how do we support them to make sure that they can be successful? Because it's a two-way street. We've got to get people who want to be here, who want to support kids, and then we've got to do everything in our power to help them become successful.
Thank you, Dave, and good luck to you and the team.
Thanks, Julian. Appreciate it. I've got a question. I don't know who a joyful reader is. Maybe we'll talk copyright later on, but someone asked, I love that shirt. How can I get one? So if you weren't here at the beginning of the presentation, this is our Joyful Readers tees. So we are giving these out as thank yous to people who both give and or raise $250 during the course of the campaign. And so even if you can't give $250 to Joyful Readers at this time, if you spread the word and within your network and your circle, all those folks together can give $250, we'd love to get you a t-shirt as a thank you. And so these are our kind of first edition t-shirts. Jessica out of Detroit asked, how might folks be able to stay engaged outside of financial commitments from a distance? Jessica, I love it. So obviously, staying engaged with Joyful Readers is one thing. You can see our social media handles on the screen. That's gonna be one way to stay engaged with Joyful Readers. But I think more broadly, what I would ask people in terms of staying engaged is, if you're not in the Philadelphia area, think about, what does reading skills look like in your community? What are ways that you can support organizations that may already exist where you are? Because this isn't just about supporting an organization. This is about supporting kids and youth in becoming the best versions of themselves that they can be. And I believe that building reading skills is a big part of that. And so a ton of cities have campaigns that might be called Read by Fourth Grade or Campaign for Grade Level Reading to take a look at. There's some other great organizations across the country to look up, anyone who's doing that work in your city. And there might be some volunteer opportunities for you to get engaged with as well. Because I want to really encourage people to not just support us as an organization, but just support this literacy ecosphere that we need in order to help give students success. Pat and Warren asked, did you know that education/reading helps individuals with maintaining their health? And yes, I do. I think one of the things I've talked about, obviously, is just how much research that I have been doing and people have been exposing me to. And for sure, definitely, there's different ways that reading can help us maintain both our physical health and then also our mental health. And that is different at different ages throughout our lifespan, but definitely a great nod to that. Liz asks if we'll be recruiting only full-time members or part-time as well. And so right now we're only looking for full-time folks. And I think that that's a tough decision to make, but the reason that we're doing that is because we believe pretty fundamentally that we can be the most successful when we are working with kids every single day, when we can be really consistent Monday through Friday in their lives. And so we are focusing exclusively on people who can tutor full-time. Eric, thanks for the love. Eric's being a little modest, but Eric works at Reading Corps in Wisconsin. Reading Corps is one of those great organizations that is in a number of states and cities across the country. So if you're not in Philadelphia and you have Reading Corps in your state, check them out. They are doing absolutely incredible work. Thank you, Eric. If I missed your question, drop it in the chat again, but I'll just take a couple more minutes. Are there any other questions that folks have about Joyful Readers?
Yeah, Dave, I have a question. This is Charlie, he, him, his. First of all, congratulations. So proud to just know about this and to be invited to support. And did you consider, in terms of who the full-time people are, could it be intergenerational? So if I retire from City Year, could I be a Joyful Reader, or am I just aged out?
Charlie, I love that so much. Thank you very much. First, Charlie, I really hope you're moving to Philadelphia because we need you here in this city.
We're about to win another World Series, so I might have to stay for the parade and then come down.
Sounds good. But Charlie, absolutely. So, I didn't mention anything about the age of our tutors because anyone who is 18 and over can become a tutor with Joyful Readers. Whether it is someone who, is coming right out of high school or college, whether it's someone who's a recent retiree or someone who wants a career change and they're 45 years old, whatever it is, as long as you can commit to being full-time, we think that you're a great fit for us. And, we think very honestly, we think that most of the people that serve with us, they're probably gonna be their first year out of college. That's gonna be the most common. So I'm always gonna tell someone who may be a retiree to let them know that they're gonna be working with some people younger than them and be honest with them. But Charlie, I'd love to have you. I'd love to have anyone else who's looking to retire sometime soon as one of our tutors.
I think there's an incredible power in an intergenerational approach. And I think you'll be surprised at who applies if you have a 18 and up.
Absolutely. My frame of thinking had, been very much thinking of my own year of service, which was right out of college at first. And that was just kind of my own bias. And then as I really started talking to programs around the country, they've had great success with saying, there's no reason to limit this. Anyone can come in regardless of their age and be a great tutor. So folks, I'm going to share my screen one more time. If you are not on our website right now, our thermometer just keeps updating and we have raised over $18,000 already. So that's $6,000 that have just come in the last 15 minutes. I haven't had a chance to look at each of those individual donations, but I'm going to get a chance to get to each of you individually and say thank you. But I want to say thank you to this group first, because $6,000 in 15 minutes is absolutely incredible. And I know that many of you are people I've known for a long time who are on the call this evening. And many of you are folks who I recognize who I've met in the last 6 months as we've been talking about Joyful Readers and what this organization can do for Philadelphia. And so I want to say thank you to everyone on this call for your support and as we help to get launched. Any final questions or comments before we go our ways for this evening? Man, I'm just scrolling through and there's just some absolutely incredible people here. So the last thing I'm just going to close out with is to say thank you. I really do appreciate everyone and your support. Here's what I'm going to say. If I missed your question in the chat for any reason whatsoever, if if anything is on your mind, you want to contribute to Joyful Readers, if you want to ask me a question, if you want to get coffee, whatever it is, I'm available. I'm going to shoot you a message. I'm going to shoot my email address right into the chat. And I'm going to ask you to reach out to me and let's have a conversation, because I'd love to keep this conversation going. So again, thank you so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a great evening and let's make some Joyful Readers, folks. Have a good one.